Well, hey, welcome back again. It is officially time for us to have Marriage
Monday.
Monday.
Welcome.
That's right.
Welcome.
That means it's Monday night. That
Good to
means
see everybody.
we're here waiting for you guys to log on, and you've done that.
Yes,
Thank you
we've
for
seen
doing
that.
that. We're seeing you now on the YouTube channel. It's good to have all of you
Yeah,
with us tonight.
yeah.
We're going to go ahead and get started. We come here every Monday night. We talk about marriages. Sometimes we talk a little bit about ours. Sometimes we even talk a little bit about yours. And our hope always is that our marriages can get better even on Monday. And our main point that we've kind of made a number of Mondays is that if you had not a great marriage through the last 3 or 4 days, maybe it wasn't the greatest weekend for your marriage, quite
That's
possibly.
okay. That's okay.
Because
because tonight is a great chance to reset and start all over again.
so easy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Marriage is simple. It's just a matter of restarting, resetting over and over again. So we want to welcome you here. It's good to see you there, and
Yeah,
we're
lots of
kind of
people.
seeing some
Yeah.
people joining us for our Marriage Monday. So here's what we want to do, as we often start off with just a little bit of a kind of an icebreaker, that type of thing. So here's what we want to ask all of you. Think back to the year that you got married. And we want to engage you on the chat a little bit, so you want to put this in, not just the year. Well, do put in the year that you got married, but think for a minute. You might have to use Google. Think for a minute of some big events that happened in the year that you got married. Maybe
Yeah, good
who are the
question.
most famous people, celebrities in the year that you got married, maybe with the most famous song or the most famous sort of historical event that happened at the time of your marriage. So put that in our chat. We want to get our chat going. We'd like to hear from you and see who's kind of out there tonight. So what year you got married, and kind of what song, what people, what exciting, what historic thing. We got married.
Yeah, we
What
got
year
married
did we
in
get married?
1990.
1990 is when we got married. 1990 was a great year. 1990 had the Hubble telescope was sent into space.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
which is
and
very awesome.
the Berlin Wall was beginning to come down.
That's right.
Which
So
was amazing.
that's how long ago. We've got some young marrieds listening to us right now going, what Berlin Wall? Exactly. So that was all
That's
happening
history.
as well. Some good songs from 1990. Do you remember? Sinead? Sinead O'Connor?
Yeah.
Nothing Compares. That was,
Nothing compares to
there you
you.
go. So that was also MC Hammer. Can't Touch This. That was really big when we got married. We'd probably explain the pants I wore back then too, as well. So, what year did you get married? Chris Ramos, 2013. Got married in
wow.
2013. Also that year, Nelson Mandela died that year. Nelson Mandela died. Interesting fact, we got married in 1990. That was the year Nelson Mandela was released from prison, I believe.
Wow.
So
That
it's a
is-
Nelson Mandela night here on Marriage Monday.
Yeah, history.
Anybody else? 1988. That's when the Shaws got married. What else? 1988 was one of the hottest summers on record.
I actually remember that. 1988 was very sweltering hot.
Setting themselves up for a joke. Was it because Daryl and Henry
It
got
must have
married?
been. It
The
must have
hottest
been.
summer
Yes.
ever.
Thank you.
Very good. All right. So, what else we got? Anybody else? Craig got married in 2002 and just has a face, a smiley face.
2002.
Yeah. Blair Thompson, we got married in 2010, the same year that Apple unveiled the first iPad.
Wow.
There you go.
Interesting.
So that's
Interesting fact.
Yeah. 1986, this is the Dings, seniors.
Oh.
Kevin and Venus. That's What Friends Are For, Dionne Warwick. Great song, actually. Very good. The Carpios, 1998. The President of the United States, Bill Clinton, ordered an airstrike on Iraq.
Oh.
He wasn't the only president that's ordered that over the years, but very good. 2018, Evan Ding. 2018, the top
And that would
song.
be the Dings Jr.
Yeah, the top song was God's Plan.
Wow.
Do you know that song, honey?
I don't.
I do. Yeah, but yeah, there you go. Daniel Knipp, 1997. Princess Diana died. Do you remember where you were when that happened?
Absolutely, that was tragic.
Not sure if you want to, that's such a sad thing. Oh, here's another child of yours, a husband, a son-in-law of ours, 2019. But technically, our first year of marriage will always remind us of COVID-19. Yeah, very good, very good. Mateo Cruz, 2019, and the Raptors won.
Wow, that's
All
pretty
because
cool.
Mateo got
That's
married.
pretty cool, but they're a cool couple, so that makes sense.
Yeah, of course, of course. You and Calvin, what year would they got married in 1992? My goodness. Tabinder Besla, 1995.
Ah.
And what was the famous thing that happened that year?
Did he say?
He wrote, I turned 30.
Oh, wow.
So there you go. Dave Ivey, 1992. Dave and Jane Ivey got married. Most popular movie that year, or the movie that was in the, the theater at this time? Wayne's World. Wayne's World.
I almost sang the song.
Wayne's World. Wayne's World. Dave says he mentioned them in his wedding vows.
He did not.
That's what he says. And also The Bodyguard, big movie, right? Big movie. Aleph 10, the 10s got married in 92 as well. The Jays won the pennant that year. The
I
Jays,
remember
more than
that.
the pennant. They won the World Series that year, right?
That was exciting.
Oh, boy. The Villafrias, 1981. The Bee Gees song was How Deep Is Your Love? What a great song.
1990, not 1981.
What am I blind? 1981, it says here, 1981.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You want to take that away from them? Way to go, Villafrias.
I
That's
just
really
think
great.
they're younger than that.
The Obeys got married in 2004, the same year Mark Zuckerberg launched his Facebook program from his dormitory.
Wow.
Yeah, that's interesting. The Lewises, always very regal, this couple.
Oh, yes.
Always very important.
Yes.
They got married in 1992, and the Olympics were in Barcelona, and they watched the Olympics on their honeymoon.
Oh, that's what's so regal?
Yeah, I mean, what did we watch on our honeymoon? I watched you on our honeymoon, huh? So, all right. Well, thanks a lot
That's
for
awesome.
playing
Thank you, guys.
along with us.
Yeah.
Marriage Monday. It's time for us to get started. Last week we talked about our marriage
Legacy.
being a legacy.
Yes,
Want to talk a little bit about that?
We want to talk about legacy and how, as couples, it's amazing to think about our legacy, which is like our story that will be written after we're gone, but can begin now. It can be a pathway that we plan out and will, help us to make good decisions and avoid bad decisions because we have kind of a vision of who we want to be, who we want to become, and how we want our marriage to be remembered.
Yeah.
So
Hope that's not too
we
depressing
thought that,
for
no,
everybody.
we thought that would be amazing. And also, well, I mean, it's good to have a focus and a goal
Absolutely.
Of who you want to become, and also just to leave behind for your children if you have any, and friends and community.
Yep.
So, and last week we talked about crisis because all of our marriages will go through crisis, and often they take us out of good marriage, or our marriages being good. They do take some people's marriages out, so we don't want that. But we want to get through crisis successfully. So we talked about lessons from a car wreck, actually Kevin and my car wreck. And if you want to watch that, you can go back and see that on YouTube from last week. But we think it's very important because we can do all kinds of great, wonderful things, but if we don't know how to get through crisis, we'll be in trouble, and it will negate everything that we do and plan.
Yeah, and we're pretty sure, based on our research, that crisis will come, and then it will go, and then it will
come again.
It'll come again,
and go,
and then it'll go again, and that's just the way of the world, and that's the way of a marriage. So you've really got to, if you want to have any legacy of any kind, if there's any good that's going to come out of this thing that we call marriage, you've really got to figure out how to get through crisis and not freak out when it happens. Well, everybody freaks out when your car is flipping upside down, but when it lands, you stay with each other, talk to each other, and you get through it, and you go on to the next one and learn to be more positive. So that was last week. This is this week, and we're going to continue talking about legacy, and particularly, we want to talk this week about marriage. So marriage is the big M on the screen behind us, and this is our lesson title tonight. This marriage, meaning your marriage. This marriage, meaning our marriage. This marriage is made to give. The way that marriage is fundamentally formed, or the way it should be enacted, the way it should be used, the way a marriage should go about being, is to be very giving. And I don't know
true.
if we always think about it that way, but marriage is best when it's viewed and when it's functioning as a very giving platform and as a place where generosity lives and is sort of on fire.
It's so true. Our marriages can be such a light and such an opportunity for us to give not just to each other, but we're going to talk about giving outwardly to the rest of the world too. And our marriages are just the perfect, as I think you just said it best, it's a perfect environment to really show giving. Because there's a lot of give and take in a marriage, and so we need to be prepared to be giving people, and our marriages are where we really get to practice that.
Yeah. Yep. So here's going to be our big question. Let's go back to the big chat board in the sky. Let's go back to YouTube. You guys know how to use the chat. Here's the question we want to ask you. What's the most important day of your marriage? What's the most important day of your marriage, do you think? Or what do you think most people think is the most important day of their marriage? So remember, we're talking about the big M. We're talking about being married, and we're talking about ultimately that using our marriage for
It's a good question.
givingness, to be solely built around giving. What do you think when we ask is the most important day of your marriage? And I bet because we've got such great marriage professionals listening and watching here, we've got people who are clever, witty, pithy, and smart.
Oh, you think there's going to be some
They're going to figure
creative
out what
comments?
we're doing here. So,
Okay.
you look, Jeremy said tomorrow is the most important day of your marriage.
I see
Isn't he
I see a lot of
smart?
today's.
Today's the
Yes.
most important day. Today's the most important
every day. Good one, Zenobia.
Every day. Today, every day. Yep, today. We're not going to fool anybody, are we?
Well, we should share what we thought. I mean, it's not what we're going to talk about, but
Yeah.
we were thinking that the most important day.
Well, we were thinking that our society and what we do kind of betrays what we all collectively think is the most important day. And that seems to be like the wedding day, right? The wedding day is where we spend a huge amount of money that many people could argue is completely a waste of money, yet we still seem to be doing it more and more. Weddings cost more now than they used to. We spend more money on DJs, on photographers.
It's so true.
Please go ahead.
Before we're going to get to that, though, I was going to share, the other day we were walking along and we decided that the most important day was actually the last day of your marriage. Remember?
Yes.
Not to be depressing, but when
Yes.
we're talking about legacy, the last day of your marriage is where that's the last chance you get to leave a legacy behind of who you're going to be, and we never know when that's going to be. So anyway, I just,
Right.
for some reason, my brain thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But definitely, if you look at how much money we spend on weddings, you would think the most important day is the wedding day. And on that day, people say a lot of really intense things to each other, right?
Yeah, like forever. No matter what.
Make commitments
Even if
to
I get sick.
till death do us part.
Even
and
if you
through,
get sick,
through sickness
I'll
and
be here.
good times and bad
Promise and
times. I mean, there's a
promise.
lot of intense exchanges of commitments made on the wedding day. Not to mention all the people that come and they dress up
Food.
and we thought also of asking how much did your marriage cost, but we decided no, we won't ask
your wedding day.
your wedding.
Yeah, we were thinking maybe
not how much your marriage cost, because that would be a lot of money, but how much,
much your wedding
did your
day
wedding
cost.
cost? But that's a little personal.
Yeah.
But anyway, you get the point. The wedding day gets a lot of focus, a lot of attention.
Yeah. And ultimately, and you guys are way ahead of us, right? Ultimately, the world that we live in puts this great amount of excitement into that one day, and it's so...
Which is understandable.
Oh, yeah, of course it is. I mean, we love weddings.
Yes,
we had one ourselves.
We had two.
We had one.
Yes,
We've
we
not
did.
had two weddings.
No.
We've had one ourselves,
Yes.
and then we gave birth to a couple kids, and they've gotten married, and we...
Within the span of a year, we had two
so
weddings.
we had
That
two
was
weddings.
quite
Our daughters
a
got
big
married,
deal.
so we believe in weddings. I
Love them.
perform weddings. I'm a minister, so our family's all about weddings.
Very true.
We have our oldest daughter and her husband, Evan and Shannon. They're in the wedding business. They're in the industry. So the Robins are all about weddings. But that being said, I think we've now dragged this point on long enough, haven't we? So all that being said, there is so much that we put into that one day. And you'd like to think that everybody would put that much expense, effort, and You know, like there's sort of this phrase I think you brought up, bridezilla, right? There's a reason. What, didn't you say that?
We were talking earlier, but
Yeah.
I didn't bring it up yet. But
You know, but you brought it up earlier. Is
Yes.
what I'm saying. There's like we put so much on that day, and so much can possibly go wrong. Wouldn't it be great if we put that much? If we gave
Yeah.
that much throughout the rest of our marriage?
Yeah.
Much harder than.
And I don't know
than
any
it is said.
bridezillas personally, but I've just heard that is something that can happen.
We're not looking at anyone right now?
You know, that brides can get really so into the wedding, and the grooms can kind of feel like, isn't this about, you know, our
Yeah.
marriage? But we wanted to make the point too, though, that this stage of the relationship can really kind of be all about me.
Yeah.
You know, and even I think there's a form of groomzilla too. I think that
I'm sure there is.
I think that sometimes I hear the young men sometimes wish they were at home in their parents' basement playing video games. You know, like
Yeah.
kind of miss that stage of life, and so you know at the start there can be just a time of you know just really the letdown after the wedding too, right? Of all this emphasis and.
So our point here with the big M behind us on the screen is that we're talking about legacy for you, legacy for us, legacy out of our marriage. And we're starting at the place a couple slides ago that marriage is all really about giving. But really what we're pushing up against is maybe the people who are watching this really understand that, but I think a lot of people involved in marriages don't really believe that this thing, this institution, this agreement, this love contract, this covenant that we make with one another is really all about not me.
Yeah.
And there's this idea, and it's kind of become a popular book even in faith circles. This book that was written called Sacred Marriage, and the subtitle is
Beautiful
such
book.
a fantastic subtitle because it asks the question, "What if your marriage?" Do you remember what it says?
What if your marriage wasn't meant to make you happy, but to make you holy? I think it's something like that.
What if marriage-
Great tagline.
What if marriage wasn't made to make you happy, but to make you holy? Now, right there, our brains kind of start to fritz out a little bit,
Kind of makes
right?
you not want to read the book, actually.
Yeah, because what is marriage all
But
about
it's a great
in this
concept.
world that we live in, this romantic society, and every movie that we watch, it's really,
getting
it's
and-
about her, but really it's about me and how
Yeah.
ultimately I feel.
How do I feel? How do you make me feel? What am I getting?
So we're saying here that
Yeah.
with our marriages, in a lot of ways, the arrows come in this way. It's about the big red M changes from marriage to just me, right? It's just all about me.
So true.
I'm glad you gave me a
Oh,
ring because
dear.
that makes me happy, and I'm glad we're living together because that makes me happy, and I'm glad we have sex now because that really makes me happy, and you can see how that
That's
can go.
problematic right there.
That is not, and if that is your mindset, and we don't want to be, we're not necessarily judgmental of that, but we would love to help correct that because that kind of thinking is not legacy thinking.
No.
That kind of thinking is not going to serve you well in what is called this marriage. So we want to move on, though, and talk about how giving should look in your marriage that leads to legacy.
Yeah. You know, when we talk about giving to each other, really the circles around the M, I mean, you do need to give to each other. We're going to talk about all kinds of giving tonight, but definitely it starts with giving to each other. And we wanted to share kind of a scientific research that was done from the Journal of Marriage and Family in 2013 because it really came up with the results, the data came out that giving in a marriage, giving of yourself, like emptying yourself to give to the other person is the way to have a happy marriage. And so just a few of the things that they talked about is just how, giving to each other actually decreases the chances of conflict. It decreases the chance, obviously, of divorce, but really increases your satisfaction even as a married person. And I'm just going to skip through and just go to they gave
Can
four
I stop
ways.
you right there? I'm just trying to read the minds of people who are listening right now.
Yeah,
And I'm thinking that they're thinking, oh, come on, Kevin and Lisa, how much more painfully obvious can you get right now by saying giving in our marriage really helps our marriage? And yes, you make a very good point with your critical mind right now, but I guess I would just answer back and say, then why aren't you more giving? If you'd really
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Why aren't we? This is what I'm sitting here thinking. I go, it's such an obvious point. Well, Kevin, why aren't you more giving then? Yeah, it's a really good point. So a lot of times we know better,
Yeah.
but we
Well,
need some guys to go out and spend about $500,000 on scientific peer-reviewed data to come back and say, hey, everybody, this just in, you really should be more giving to your spouse than you are. You'd be a lot happier and your marriage would be better.
so true.
But you can go ahead and read the study. It doesn't say that entirely.
I love one of the quotes in there, investing in the relationship, putting your spouse's needs above your own without thought of personal gain. Because even in doing what we're doing, we're really convincing you that if you do this, it's going to bring you satisfaction. It's going to, reduce the conflict in your home. And so
kind of
we
backwards,
do
isn't it?
think a lot about personal gain. It's so hard to not do that. But I'm just going to go through how they defined giving in this study that was done in 2013.
Yep.
And there's 4 ways to show generosity, according to this study, to your spouse. 1 is acts of kindness. Okay, just acts of kindness, doing kind things.
Be nice.
I love that.
Yeah.
2, expressions of respect. Okay.
What would that be?
Okay.
Well, we know what acts of kindness are, but
Yeah.
what would be expressions of respect?
Well-
How could I respect you with expressions, I wonder?
Yeah, I think definitely looking at each other when you speak. Like if you're talking to me and
right.
it's very tempting for me. I'm a multitasker to just not look at you when you're talking to me, to kind of half listen. And really, I'm half listening. If I'm not looking at you, I'm only half listening. So
That's
that would be
true.
an example for me that I could. Expressions of respect, though, would be to listen and nod and go, oh,
Yes.
okay, be
Right.
interested.
Really
Yeah.
acknowledge that you're there.
Yeah, were you looking for another answer?
No, I'm looking for some help in my marriage. So this
Oh,
is really
okay.
good.
So, and then the third one was displays of affection. That I wanted to get to that one because that's one I like.
That's your-
Displays of affection, and I mean of the non-sexual kind,
Mm-hmm.
like just.
Since we've been doing Marriage Mondays, I've been trying. Have you noticed that I've been trying to be a little bit more affectionate?
Yeah,
With
yeah.
the non-sexual
Yeah,
trying,
yeah.
not succeeding
yeah, no.
apparently, but I've been trying. So I've got to up my game more. I've got to be more giving. That was number 3, right?
Well, the one thing that I've gotten we've started when we say a prayer before a meal, we hug when we're doing it.
It's true.
I love that.
Yeah.
You didn't want me to share that with
Not
everybody,
really,
did
not
you?
particularly, but that's fine.
have a hug
That's
prayer.
Fine. It's only the World Wide
Oh,
Web.
At least I know I get 1 hug a day at dinner time.
That's true.
But anyway,
Yeah.
so displays of affection. And fourthly, a willingness to forgive. I mean, obviously, right? We have to forgive each other. And every day we have to forgive each other.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so those 4 things are very, very important. And, these guys or girls who've done this study, again, they come back and they say, look, here's the paperwork, here's the scientific data, and it tells us really what we already know.
Yeah, I mean, they had thousands of people in that study.
Yeah,
So that was,
but it tells us what we already know, but it also points to the fact that even though we know it, we don't necessarily do it.
Yeah.
It's so hard. We're so busy, and a lot of times we're so worried about me. But if you start to apply these kind of things, we want to suggest to you that what it creates in your marriage, that's the big M. If you start applying these 4 things, right, these acts of kindness, expressions of respect,
affection.
right, that's a big one, yeah, and willingness to forgive, what that begins is what we're calling an upward spiral in your marriage. Because I think every marriage we've encountered, ours included, have downward spirals.
yes.
Those are easy. If you have a downward
Downward
spiral in your
spiral,
marriage, you're not
so
that special.
easy.
Don't think
Yes.
you're that special. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Anybody can do that.
Yeah.
Upward spirals, though, those are harder because you have to apply these kind of things. And there's also kind of behaviors that come out, or the behaviors that really help the 4 things that Lisa already talked about.
Yeah, they give examples of all those.
Yeah, they give kind of these examples in the data study, the scientific study. So here's what they are. If you really help each other out in kind of the house or wherever you live, help each other out, help with chores. And this is really particularly the concept of just not walking into your marriage, and it's about, here's what the science shows. People who treat each other fairly get on an upward spiral of gratitude and giving and generosity. People who don't treat each other fairly. So in other words, if the wife does more of the chores, and that's because the man may come into the marriage with some previous teaching of what a man should be in the marriage, or something like that. If one spouse is working harder in one area when it comes to the home and the other's not, for whatever reason.
This is tricky.
Yeah, it really does get tricky because there may be one person who's like, well, I'm out all day working hard, and when I come home, I expect, to have craft dinner ready in the pot or something like that.
Craft dinner.
So, look, we're not here to say, we're not here to say one way or the other particularly. We're here to just say, look, this is what they discovered. If you want to have a really giving and gracious relationship with your spouse, really think about and kind of balance out. And it doesn't mean that the chores are actually balanced. That's not what's being said there.
Just don't let one person be totally feeling like they're taken advantage of.
And that's the key word. How are you feeling? How are both people feeling?
And I've seen that some people like the way they do things and are kind of like, I'll take care of it all.
Yes.
And I think it's important for them to work out something where the other spouse is able to help. There's a togetherness, right? So
I don't know if you can hear Lisa and I say what we're really trying to say here. You might think, well, we're talking out of both sides of our mouth, and we might be a little bit, but it's especially about how the other person feels.
Just a behavior of givingness, and they also talked about positivity.
Yep.
And that takes giving. Sometimes we don't feel like being positive. There's lots of things you don't feel like doing, but if you do these things, you will increase your own satisfaction. Well, I know we're not supposed to be doing it for our own satisfaction, but it's just an environment, a mindset of that you want to have, of positivity. And
here's another one. You can get on an upward spiral if you're really generous with your interpretation of the other person.
Oh, yes.
Be really generous of your interpretation of the other person.
Of their behavior.
Exactly right. So in other words, like what kind of spouse are you when the other spouse is not having a good day or is a little bit short or grumpy or sad or depressed? What's your interpretation? If you have a more positive interpretation, just tell yourself, oh, they're just having a bad few moments, and everything's going to be fine.
Yeah. Then
you get on an upward spiral.
I love that.
If you kind of whisper to yourself or tell yourself in your mind, well, he's just a jerk. He's always a jerk. He always does this at this time. You go the other way down. And so it is about positivity, but it's also the way you interpret.
Absolutely.
In your mind,
we can do this even with everyone all over the world. I love people that do that. They say, oh, they probably were they don't get offended. They just go, oh, they're probably heard some bad news or whatever. But do this with each other as well.
I'll never forget this. A good friend of ours, Albert and Hope Ramsey. Albert once told me this, and it was a very powerful moment. We were talking about people, how they drive. We all live in the city of Toronto. Even while we were on our way here tonight, we literally almost got killed.
It was unbelievable.
We almost had another crisis and car wreck on the way here to the studio
crazy
tonight.
Drivers on the road tonight.
But Albert once told me, when somebody kind of cuts you off or is rude to you or thoughtless while you're driving, instead of just getting frustrated, clenching your fists or thinking, what a jerk, what an idiot, why not think to yourself, oh, I wonder why they're in a hurry. Maybe they've got a real problem. Maybe they've got sort of other things on their mind and real concerns. Now, I know some of you think that sounds flaky and altruistic.
It's fantastic.
But what if you go through your life, at very least, you just might live a few weeks longer at the end of your life before we get to legacy. So let's move on, though. We've talked about this upward spiral. Let me go back again. So we're talking about the fact that our marriage is a legacy. We're trying to get across to you that a marriage of giving is the most important thing. Sometimes we think marriage is all about us. That's not. When you get in your marriage between two people, that's where the giving starts. We've got to be giving to each other as best we can and use those four things that Lisa said. Now, here's where the legacy comes especially. In our marriage, because we're giving to each other, that's the weird circle in the middle of the marriage there. Giving needs to be coming out of our
Outward
marriage.
focus, yes.
Outward
yeah,
focus
absolutely.
towards really everyone,
Yeah.
everywhere.
This is your best legacy that you can give for your marriage, not just to be for your own legacy, but for the the legacy for all, to make the world a better place. It's so exciting to think about our relationship like a partnership, or think of your spouse and you as it's your marriage is like a vocation, to make the world a better place.
A vocation or a vacation?
A vocation
A
or a
vocation.
calling.
What does a vocation
like
mean?
your partners in service. You're looking for opportunities to just make the world a better place. It sounds very cliche, but I think the world needs the healing touch of more couples who love each other incredibly and then want to turn that love outward. And not just to their own children. It's easy to love your children. Well, it's not always easy to love your children, but it's natural.
I'm sorry.
But we want to love.
Let's see if that makes the chat. It's easy to love your children.
So, I think we should ask ourselves questions like what's the good in your relationship that you can use to.
Not mine personally, but your meaning.
Yeah, all the
Your,
couples
us.
that are watching, like what are the strengths of your relationship? What could your relationship, as your partners in service, what could you do to help your neighborhood, to help, the greater community around you, your church? There's just so many people in need of the love that comes from the nucleus family that's doing well and loving each other, but then not just keeping that insular for themselves, but sharing it with the world.
Yeah.
And not, I think sometimes we can just go out and want to change the world, but you got to keep the togetherness, the giving inside the marriage, but then I like the idea of that spiral going up and then just overflowing. You should have made a graphic like that.
I should have.
Yeah. I like the spiral one, and it's just like you get so much love in your relationship that it just overflows for the rest of the world. But you can also be
flies everywhere else. Is
yeah,
that what you're saying?
I like that idea. But I think also it is so important as you want to become this couple that serves the community around you, the world around you. You've got to keep the connection though, and take care of each other. And it's actually funny as a minister's wife, you also have to be careful.
You're a minister's wife.
I'm a minister's wife, and this is just a side note, but it's important for.
Is this going to be good or bad? I'm not sure.
This is going to be good.
Is it? Okay.
Yes. And I read this, and it's very good. For there to be an interdependence in your relationship, for one not to be the shadow spouse. I did do this reading. I came up with that term, shadow spouse. I didn't read that somewhere. I came up with it myself.
Oh, trademark.
You have to be independent. Two independent people coming together in a partnership and giving to the rest of the world. You can't become. And I was going to say, as a minister's wife, it's easy to just get so focused out there that you kind of lose yourself in it. And you can't do that either. You've got to take care of yourself, take care of each other, and then just go for it and try and make the world a better place. I can't say that enough.
So this whole concept of giving, this is something that, again, it sort of seems quite intuitive. Like, what are you telling us that we don't know? But to be the kind of giving where your marriage actually has legacy, and an enduring legacy, takes a lot of deliberate decision making.
Yeah.
I almost hesitate to use the word, it takes being authentic, because it seems like everybody uses the word authentic nowadays. I'm getting tired of it because we're
intentional.
using, and intentional is another word, right? But
That's a
even that.
hot word today.
Yeah, but it's very deliberate, where you decide our marriage is not about us. Of course it is about us. If you've been able to watch on the YouTube channel the other weeks that we've talked here, we've also taught something that it's us
against the world.
It's us against the world. Well, that sounds very insular, doesn't it? It sounds like, well, now what are you talking about? Well, it is really us against the world. That plays a role. But even in the us against the world, we're together, you have to make that deliberate decision that our marriage and our life together is going to be about everything. We're going to be sending out. We're going to be giving. Look, it's no surprise that those people who are the most successful in the world, and I'm not even talking about people of faith right now, those people who rise to the highest places in the biggest or most influential boardrooms, or the CEOs, or those kind of people, the people that are counseling them and coming alongside of them are saying, look, you've got to be a giving person.
Yeah, they get mentored in that.
Exactly. You've got to give away and give back.
Yeah.
And, you know, of course, we call it what? It's very philanthropic, right? To be.
It's a big word.
Yeah, it is. And actually, philanthropic means quite simply this. It's taking the Greek words, right? Philo, meaning to love. It's a type of love, actually, a brotherly love. And anthros, it's humans. And those, but this isn't just reserved for those who invented Facebook, for those who are high-priced whoever and CEOs.
Yeah.
But this is for everyone. You actually don't need to be rich to be philanthropic. You don't need to be wealthy. You don't need to be running a corporation. You can just be people like you and us. You don't have to have much to be a person who's always giving. And that is the main point. And we've now arrived literally at the main point of tonight on this Marriage Monday. You know, we read a quote, or we found this quote, that it is human to seek what we need. It's divine to seek what others need. Mm-hmm. Now, that sounds all very noble and almost Hallmark-ish, but it's everything when it comes to your marriage. Absolutely, the marriages that we've seen sort of come off the rails and break down the most, one of the first things that you can, is you peel back the onion and say, what's the problem here? You start to see they're not giving out. It's all about them. And you can't sustain an all about them kind of structure because it begins to devour itself. It's very, I don't know, it's cannibalistic. It's not the way your marriage was meant. What if what if your marriage was not meant to make you just happy, but to make you holy? Again, that giving out is such a huge, huge part of it. So legacy, your marriage legacy. And remember, we asked, what's the most important day of your marriage? Some of you cleverly said tomorrow. Even more, or just as cleverly, you said today. We thought we were clever when we said your most important day is your last day of your marriage. If you have kids, what's going to endure with them? If you don't have kids, what's going to endure with those people around? If you belong to a faith community like ours, like the church that we belong to, what's going to endure there? If we could get all of the people watching to decide our marriage, we're going to give. Like every decision we make, you know, it's a decision that Lisa and I made even years ago. When our marriage first started, we've always said our whole life is about giving. Literally every decision we've made, well, not every, but most decisions we make, most purchases we make, we've purchased vehicles solely for giving. We didn't need to drive, how many minivans? We didn't need to own 2 minivans over the years. Not at all. But we made the decision to pay more money to get a vehicle that would have more seats so we could be involved in helping people in our community. In our case, getting people to church. But not just that, but serving in any way. And I just use that as one small example. Many purchases, many decisions we've made in our life have been that way.
Yeah, legacy costs money, that's true.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if you want to think about legacy, you've got to first understand that legacy is going to cost. If you want to be a person, a couple rather, that's sending out, legacy costs money. It is. And it is about charity. It is about giving. It is about what you give to your community and what you give to the congregation you belong in. It is about all of those things, but it's more. Legacy is also about love and caring. Therefore, there's an emotional cost to you having a legacy.
That's huge.
In your marriage or at the end of your days, at the end of your marriage, there's an emotional cost there. There is.
I think that's cost us the most.
The emotional cost. It's tough, right? It's tough to be giving. It's tough not to say, you know what? It's us against the world. Don't pick up that phone call, and we're out of here. Yeah, those aren't our best moments, right? but we go back again and go, it's got to be coming out
Yeah.
of this.
Yeah, it's having a greater purpose, a greater purpose than just your own personal pleasure. And amazingly, you actually get more pleasure and satisfaction when you are giving. So it's a very strange thing, how you shoot yourself in the foot when you're all about getting and not giving.
Legacy is about significance. Giving is as well about significance. If you're not giving out of your marriage, you just don't think in a very significant way. You don't think really beyond yourself, that greater purpose that Lisa talked about again. We don't have too much longer because we want to engage in the chat again, but I just wanted to share, can I share a little bit about Genesis chapter 18?
Oh, I love this, yes.
I just want to tell everybody, because I think this is one of the most amazing things about two people who were married, who honestly revolutionized the world by their hospitality and by their attitude, that our marriage is going to be about giving. And this is from Genesis chapter 18 in the Old Testament of the Bible. And this is about Abraham and his wife Sarah. I'm going to do this as short as I can, but this is so deep. It's such a deep study, and it's so revolutionary thousands of years later. Many of you have friends, I'm sure. Many of you know people who come from, even now, from the culture of what we call the Middle East of the world.
Yeah, our neighbors.
We have very dear friends and neighbors even on our street. And something that struck us was how different the culture of giving outside of your marriage and hospitality is compared to the typical Canadian culture, our culture. It's above and beyond. It's like, come on in.
Very generous.
Stay.
Very generous.
Eat more. Let us give this to you. It's really amazing. And we've done a little bit of work on this. And do you know where this all comes from? It comes from Abraham and Sarah. Yeah. There's this moment in time, I'll just tell this to you really quick. It's really quite beautiful. There's this moment in time where Abraham, a lot of things going on in the story, but the long and short of it is that he was instructed that every male should be circumcised. And so Abraham, as a grown man himself, was circumcised. The next place we find him is sitting in a tent by some big trees. Okay? So here's what happens. In this story, Abraham is clearly recuperating. He is clearly a man in great pain. And all of a sudden, 3 visitors come along. Abraham notices them, and he begs them to come in to be his guests. This is this giving out thing. Of all the times when you could say, I'm not giving out right now. I'm just going to sort of stay here.
Don't answer the door, Sarah.
The tent. Yeah, don't pick up the phone. Don't you know, right? But he goes out of his way. He talks to them, please stay. They're not sure. He's like, please stay. He insists they stay. And then he says, and they say, okay, we will. Then he moves on over. He talks to Sarah, his wife, and he says, go get this, I think it's 3 seahs of flour, and make some bread.
Apparently that's a lot of flour.
That's a lot of flour. Basically, I think there's kind of like, I don't know, these, if you went to the store and bought a bag of flour, I think in a seah there's somewhere to 30 to 50 bags of flour in each seah. And she took all of their flour, at least 3, this massive amount. They make all this bread, and then they bestow it on their guests. It says that Abraham hurries, this is a man who just got circumcised, hurries and gets a calf, a prized possession, and they cook up this meat. They bestow all these loaves of bread. I thought one theologian calculated out that they gave each one of their guests about 25 to 30 loaves of bread. This is amazing. And this is the culture. And when you think about that Middle Eastern culture, why hospitality is so important, if you start tracing it back over the years, you will find most people say, in different religions over there, Abraham is our father. Abraham and Sarah's hospitality began why we feel the way and why we treat.
That is legacy.
That's legacy.
That's amazing.
And I'm just curious, what's going to be Kevin and Lisa's legacy at the end of our days? Are we willing to give that much bread away, right? Are we willing to kill fatted calves, so to speak. I understand nobody kills calves anymore and bakes bread that much anymore, and certainly not that much bread. But can you see where we're going here? And can you think for a second about your marriage?
It's very challenging.
And think, wow, are we really giving out that much? Or are the arrows more pointing in this way with the occasional one arrow? I guess it's time, let's give a little money to the church and then pull that arrow back in again. It's not the way it should be, and it will not leave you in any legacy whatsoever. So that was my trip down theological memory lane.
You make me think of so many couples in our church, though, who are amazing at this, who are so generous and kind, and use so many opportunities. We've got so many, couples doing life together in our church, and you know who I'm talking about. But anyway, and I love our church so much. I just want to give a little shout out. If you subscribe right now, as you're watching this tonight, please subscribe, and you will get notifications, I believe, right, for all the Milestone events,
like our services and
services
like
and resources. Yeah, great stuff for preteens. And anyway, but yeah,
it's really true. We were talking about this on the way. There are so many people that we know who are watching right now that we appreciate so much, and there's so many people that we're involved with.
So true.
Frankly, honestly, if we could be just blunt, there's so many people that Lisa and I work with on staff in the Milestone congregation that just demonstrate and model this kind of living in their marriages.
They blow our minds.
It just thrills our soul. We think about Andrew and Suzette Lewis, who are just so amazing in this way. They've taught us how to be more giving, right? From ourselves.
So we need to give honor where honor is due, and Andrew and Suzette are the most incredible couple when it comes to their relationship being a partnership that is to make the world a better place. And Andrew is our senior minister, and does so much training and development of our staff. And Suzette is my best friend, but also is just incredible. The work she does with the Murray McKinnon Foundation. Yeah. So many of you, even a part of our community, don't know what she even does, which is amazing for
just tireless
youth.
Advocates.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah. I mean, she's 11 years. I think she was executive director for Youth Justice Alternatives. She's in court, fighting for kids. And anyway, I love
this.
This
is the kind of stuff we're talking about there. Just so amazing in that way. Great mentors to us. Yes. Great inspirations to us. And we're just so thankful
and she's watching right now, so we love you so much. We love you. We love your family. We love everything.
We do.
And you've done so much for us, and we just want to. I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, and it's honestly where this principle of every marriage needs to be giving. It's they who've really kind of taught that to us all. Yeah. And then when we think about them, we start to think about the staff that we get to work with in Milestone, and how amazing and how very similar so many of our staff, and what a great time in history it is right now in the church. Our staff really is so unified, but even the marriages are so focused on out of themselves. I mean, since the last 8 weeks, man, the people on our staff have been joyous and tired and giving and just giving and giving. And we're thrilled just to be a part of that. We're so very proud of them. And so we just want to say, if you know any of those people right now, maybe you're watching on YouTube, you don't even know who we're talking about, but if some of you know who we're talking about,
many of you do know.
Send them a text right now. Like even right now.
Yeah, blow their phones up with
just
thanks.
Really encourage them, because these people are exactly the kind of examples that we all need of people who are giving out from themselves. So we're very proud of the folks that we work with. We're proud of those of you who are watching, who we can't even really mention, but we know you're watching. You give out your marriage as well.
Absolutely.
But here's the take home. Everything in our marriage ultimately is going to be measured in some way about legacy. Mm-hmm. And our last day is going to be really, hopefully, and possibly our best day. I know that sounds sort of weird.
When the legacy starts.
Whether it is for kids, or whether it is for neighbors, or whether it is for other people of faith that you know, or whether it is for communities that you're serving, or whether it is for your company, you impact, meaning you and you, the two of you, impact so many people.
Beautiful.
It's
just beautiful.
thoughtless if we don't think about giving. It's cruel
Yeah.
if we don't think about giving, and you will not have the legacy that you dream and you want if you're not thinking about giving out
And-
to others.
And you're amazing. As individuals, you're amazing. So it just makes sense that you can't do as much individually as you can when you come together in partnership with your spouse. And the two of you, what you can do if you're unified and giving to each other and giving to the rest of the world, look out. It's amazing what can happen.
Yes, so here's what we want to do as we start to wrap up. We've got about 10 minutes or so. We don't have to stay here for an extra 10 minutes, but we're willing to stay here for an extra 10 minutes because we want to ask you this. As we talk about legacy, let's get you being creative and let's help each other right now. So this is not a question time, but think through what are some ways for all of us to consider leaving a legacy in our marriage. Be focused here. I don't want to hear legacies about, your business necessarily, but more focused towards marriage. Maybe your business, maybe that all does work out here, but again, what are some ways that you can even think of right now that we've not talked about here,
That you can give
that we can read in the chat all together and get inspired?
That you can give together as a couple. How can you together give something to the world?
Yeah. So for this next little section, we're just going to kind of dream a bit. We're going to think a little bit. We're going to engage a little bit with each other and perhaps give each other just that crucial idea of, right, that sounded good.
Yeah.
Honey, this is what we need to do.
Some nuggets,
This is where we need to
please.
go. These are the kind of people we need to serve. So if there's any ideas out there, go ahead and send that to us our way. And when you're now typing, I don't know if you can even hear this, did want to say this. We thought, what could we do to be giving to this group that we appreciate so much?
Oh, yes, I almost forgot.
So here's what we did. Listen, we didn't, this is something we've already given out for free before, and some of you may have already taken advantage of this, but perhaps not all of you have. Lisa and I made up something about a year ago. And we called it the 14 Days of Intimacy. It's to help your physical intimacy. It's a challenge to go 14 days, and it's a whole kind of a devotional type of article, a free PDF that we're willing to give out to anybody who's watching right now here.
It's a great resource, though. Don't be scared by what Kevin just said there.
Oh, did I scare you?
Made it sound, you can take it as a challenge for 14 days if you want to,
right.
or you can just pick and choose. It's kind of 14 devotionals that set you up for a great night, with your spouse, and some
pretty
creative
cool.
ideas. Yeah,
It's pretty fun. It's called 14 Days of Intimacy.
So
We
it's a
thought, how
great-
can we be
great
giving to
resource
you?
for
And
you.
so we want to offer that free to all of you who are watching here. You can download it for free at a website called robinsmotivation.com. Robinsmotivation.com. Remember, Robbins has two B's in it, ROBBINS, motivation.com. It's a bummer to have the last name of Robbins in the motivational world because there's a bigger motivational person than us Robbinses. But anyways, robinsmotivation.com. You can go on that website later tonight.
Yeah.
You can download that for free.
Enjoy it.
And you could also, if you want to, leave your email address and say hi to us and maybe even get on a newsletter that we're going to do. So that is something we just want to do for you because we were trying to look for something look for some way we can give a little bit to you guys. So let's look and see if any suggestions are coming in here on what are ways to develop our legacy as we give out in our marriage. Now, I should have brought glasses, right? So our love for each other, of course. I think we can start by simply inviting people into our homes, showing hospitality, of course, post-pandemic. I think, is that Llewellyn who said that? I don't know, the nobler anyways. But that is really excellent in how very much Abrahamic and Saraic, if you will. And when I say Saraic, I mean Sarah. Abraham and Sarah, not just inviting, what did Abraham do? He just didn't invite them into his home. He insisted.
Yeah.
It's like, you got to come. I really want you to. That's a great thing. Tabinder, legacy of mentorship to young folks in marriage and life.
Good point. Very good point. Very good idea.
I do think that's really wise. Think about your marriage and all the work and all the crisis that you've been through over and over again.
The experience, the richness of
Yeah,
experience.
take some other
Yeah,
people under your
yeah.
wing, make friends with other marriages, and share. It's
Yeah.
a really excellent point to
Yeah.
Binder. Dave Ivey's talking about planning for hospitality, younger couples as well. This is becoming a theme.
Yeah.
That, or even teaching, I think is what he's saying here. Other younger couples that aren't confident in entertaining and training them how to use their home to be a blessing for others. Great point, Dave.
Yeah.
And that's good for all of our legacies.
I see someone's asking if you were talking about Jamie Robbins as your competition.
Well, there's so many Robbinses, aren't there? It was kind of Tony is what I was talking about. Tony Robbins. You may not have heard of him yet, but he's an up and comer.
But we
in the
love
motivational speaking
we
world.
love Jamie Robbins.
Yeah, we love all Robbinses. We have to, right? So, let me see. What else? Let me go back. Hospitality, again, seems to be the thing here. Mentoring others as well. Giving to others. Mentoring others and giving to others in the community. That's Carpio.
I like the hospitality because we live in a very mobile society right now, or we're on the go, and
Yeah.
actually being in someone else's home is powerful. And I don't think I think especially living as we do in the GTA, it's a big deal.
Yeah, somebody, I think it's Liberty, just said that and it's not, I don't think it's just a we for them, but rather the collective we want to be remembered as encouraging people, and we want to be remembered as a serving couple. I know.
Love it.
If that is Liberty, if that's Calvin and Liberty, of course, that is what they're known for.
They are, yes.
Certainly, but I do, if you'll allow me, Liberty, to take the liberty to do that collective. Yeah, that is what we all want to be known for.
Yeah.
But that just doesn't sort of happen. You don't just sort of fall out of bed in the morning and go, yes, I'm an encouragement to the world, right? You have to be very deliberate about those kind of things as well. To be a refuge and a haven to others, that's sort of referencing safe place. You know, that is really...
That's nice. That's beautiful.
Really a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, it's in the last, especially few years of our lives, we've mentioned some dear friends of ours already here, and Andrew and Suzette, and so many other people on our staff, but especially Andrew and Suzette, Ed and Diana Bahula, Daryl and Zenny, Kevin and Nadine. To find people of safety in your life is so valuable and so important. And it creates ultimately, and this is the spiral effect, when you have that safety and you find in other people, in your friends, you begin to spiral up and become that safety and that help to other people as well. Am I
absolutely.
waxing poetic here, honey?
Beautiful. I think about Rowan and Keisha and the time with the Lewises and a few other couples that we had at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And that just that filled my tank.
Yeah.
Like it hasn't been filled in years, and so we're never too old to need to be inside each other's homes and to be served by each other and given to. It's beautiful.
It's
so
shocking
beautiful.
what kindness can do.
Yeah, that's true.
Shocking. I don't know any other way to say it. It's like, I know what I know what being unkind can do. I've got a load of that. That's, again, not a big deal. But for somebody to be really kind, it's just like, wow, it revolutionizes everything. So, listen, we've kind of come to the end of our evening, to quote. Not to quote, but we've come to our time here. So let's try to remember as we wrap up here, another Marriage Monday. We're talking about legacy. It's probably not as fun as all the other topics about sex and giggle and eating oysters and stuff like that. But legacy is just as important, we think, anyways. Marriage is so very important. We've got to be giving. Giving here with each other. That's where we really learn and lay down that baseline, and we take it seriously to give to each other. When we start doing that, then you've got to be giving out. That's what legacy is all about, whether it's your kids, people beyond,
charities,
people on this, even on this session here, the community that we belong in. Let's be not just people for the next couple days who are giving out, but for the rest of our lives.
Get a vision. Get a vision for it.
Not to be depressing. So when that last day comes, and I think most of us have probably been to funerals sometimes in our life, but those funerals of impact, Usually they're very big funerals. Those are the people with legacy. And they're always the people who are giving out from their life. And in this case, their marriage. So thanks very much for joining us on our YouTube channel. Thanks very much for joining us this Marriage Monday. We appreciate you all. And
Thank
we'll
you.
be back next week.
Yeah,
Won't we, honey?
thank
We
you
come
so
back
much
next
for
week?
joining us. We will be back next week.
Lord willing,
Yes,
marriage willing.
Lord willing, next week.
And us giving. We'll be back next week. Marriage Monday.
Good
Thanks
night.
for joining us. Have a good night.
Good night.